So I know that I took a look at Zach's sideboard,
Hmm.
and I know that Path to Exile is available. What are your thoughts on something like Path to Exile in this matchup?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because you do have to get Urza off the board as it blocks all of your creatures really well. Um, but the more potent way to answer that on the play especially might be just get out there early and just burn them out and just not worry about trying to kill creatures, because I feel like if you're playing the let's 2 for 1 to try and get that creature off the board, or like attack with a goblin guy, they block with Urza and then you bolt it. Like at that point, if the construct is still on the board, you're still not able to attack into it on the following turn, and you're just spending too many resources on a card that's going to beat you in the late game anyway, and you're just letting them get to the late game. So yeah, I feel like on the play especially, you just want to get as much damage as you can with your early creatures, but then just everything upstairs.
So would you be more into then something like Skullcrack, something that would basically negate a food crack by David
I think
to just
Skullcrack
kind of try and close things out?
Skullcrack should definitely be in post board. It's obviously not a great rate, but basically one food crack and you're out of the game a lot of the time. Especially against a deck that can turn the corner so quickly with an Urza. But if they crack the food and you're able to not only negate the 3 life gain, but also deal them 3, that's a pretty huge swing, especially since they're committing mana to that. It's kind of like a counter spell and 3 damage, which that's very very worth the 2 mana.
Well, Zach with one of my favorite arts on a mountain.
Oh,
Some
I
really
I do
nice
love,
John Avon.
yeah, I do love those unhinged.
They're great is it mountains because they kind of have just like a bit of a blue turquoise tint to them.
Yeah, I do very much like seeing them next to the John Avon Islands, the unhinged ones. And looks like David's hand's a bit slow here, but potentially there's a fatal push for the
I
Eidolon.
think this will probably be um, Ice
Oh,
Fang
maybe Ice
Coatl,
Fang, yeah.
but I
Yeah.
imagine we'll see some sort of. So, Zach's definitely supposed to be hitting using these burn spells before David goes to blocks. Um,
Yeah, that was
D-
certainly a bit loose there.
yeah, David is clearly vocalizing. It looks like David's playing quickly. David is vocalizing go to blocks.
Yeah, we
Zach
clearly
did
heard
allow
that.
us to go to blocks there, so um, this is being played correctly, but definitely something that Zach may have wanted to do differently next time.
Absolutely, yeah. If you want to get in that extra 2 points of damage there, just bolt it before blocks. Um, but yeah, David, to his credit, absolutely is playing quickly, but like you said, very clearly enunciated. Can I move to blocks? And Zach said sure.
Some very stylish elk overlays.
Yeah, I like that. And I imagine Zach has to attack David here. Ooh, goes for the Oko. I don't agree with that play.
This is interesting. David has access to an engineered explosives here. Yeah, I think you have to force. I think you do have to go face, and you need to just force David to use his mana every turn to try and get food and crack it to stay alive,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or
With
something.
with 2 Eidolons, I mean, every spell besides Urza and Cryptic Command that David casts is gonna be really painful. So putting him at 9 here, I think, is much better than 13. And it would be a different story if you could actually kill the Oko there. But because Oko was gonna stick around either way, I really disagree with the Oko attack.
But it's a good example, right, of what we were talking about earlier. Burn has it actually has a lot of decisions. There are a
It
lot of
does.
decisions to be made with this deck, and you get punished very, very heavily if you make the wrong decisions with this deck because your margins are very tight.
Tiny. Yeah, I mean, you're just trying to deal 20, and really in Modern you only have to deal like 16-ish, because most people are playing fetch lands or otherwise hurting themselves. But dealing 16 can be difficult before your opponent either kills you or starts gaining life. So engineer explosives on 2.
So
Interestingly here, David would have just been dead had Zach attacked
right,
David instead of the Oko.
and yeah, it looks like got Spike, Skewer,
Oh,
and Skewer,
all
and
right.
we
Well,
still get there.
got it anyway. Got it anyway. All right.
So it's
Well, sometimes you have a
a
lot
tough
of
deck, right?
yeah.
We're over here analyzing the plays. Obviously, there was one just straight up misstep with the Eidolon and the
Right,
Bowl.
right.
But beyond that, there were decisions that were made.
Yeah.
And Zach still managed to get there. I think the same thing would have happened had we gone face instead of Oko that one turn. So I'm still with you. I think going face was the right call.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because it's a Boros Charm in hand. Zach must have drawn a second Skewer and then Lava Spike for the next 2 turns, which is obviously great.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, his hand was Skewer Boros Charm, I think, when we had the information that we had,
Mhm.
and when you have like the kill in your hand, you should probably go for it.
Fair enough. Fair
but
enough.
but he ended up drawing more than enough anyway, so didn't matter. It's one of the upsides of Burn is it is fairly one-dimensional, but it does that one thing very consistently.
It is the best at that thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to worry when you're playing Burn. Sometimes you're playing a deck and you're worried, am I playing a worse version of, is there some other deck that's the better version of what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
Burn is and has been the best version of what it's trying to do for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that you have so many lightning bolts. There's Lava Spike, there's Lightning Bolt, there's Skewer the Critics, there's all the 2-mana ones as well. You just have 30 copies of 3 damage to your opponent, and then some creatures and some lands. It's doing the same thing every time. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice. The consistency of Burn is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, I think we regularly see Burn players of all skill levels come to this shop and get 3-1s, 4-0s. So the deck is powerful, and it's another one of those decks where if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing against the deck, your opponent's margins are also thin in the game.
Oh, very
so,
thin. Maybe
if they
thinner
make
than
a
yours.
sequencing mistake or a fetching mistake where they need to leave a fetch uncracked because it's the difference between 7 and 6 life, and they don't do that, they'll get punished as well.
Oh yeah, I think Burn is actually one of the better Game 1 decks, precisely for that reason, because people are going to keep hands with 3 fetches because they don't know they're playing against Burn, or keep hands with 2 Canopy lands as their only mana sources. And then you start off the game and you're like, turn 1, this guy, Goblin Guide. Oh jeez. And then you're looking
Yeah.
at your hand like, if I want to cast spells, I'm going to take 8. So
Right.
I'm not going to win this game. You're just done.
Well, and notably too, at least in this shop, we've seen a lot less Dredge than we used to, and we at this store have not had that many people that I've seen pick up the Vengevine.
Crabvine list?
Yeah, Crabvine list.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if people aren't playing Creeping Chill, the natural predator to Burn, yeah, your matchups get a bit better across the board for sure. Yeah, I saw Burn recently playing Rest in Peace in their sideboard. I don't know if that's still the case, but yeah, it's just Creeping Chill is almost unbeatable, and they're going to see at least two of them every game. So
Yep.
basically, they start at 26,
Right.
which is very difficult for the
And that's one
Burn
of those
deck.
matchups where you do have to care about your life total if you're the burn player
Oh
because
yeah,
they are very fast and their pressure is fast. So
and
a
their
lot of
creatures are bigger
times,
than yours.
yeah, a lot of times you can ignore it and just say, well, I need to kill you fast anyway, so my life total is a resource, but I'm going to try and max that out while also killing you, and it shouldn't be that close. But
Right,
in the
right.
Dredge matchup, it can be that close.
Yeah, and it used to be Dredge really needed one of their nuttier draws to keep up with Burn, which Burn is like typically a turn four combo deck. Um, they're generally gonna have enough Burn to kill you on turn four if you don't interact in any way, like Goldfish style. But Dredge now with Creeping Chill, they're not dead on turn four. They might not even be dead on turn five, and so they can kind of just have a medium hand and play a couple 3/3s and Creeping Chill a couple times, and that's it. That's all they need.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very bad matchup for Burn now if they don't have an early Rest in Peace.
Well, David played an early Oko, and
Oh, that's that card up in the corner. I wasn't sure what that six
yeah,
loyalty 3 mana thing
yeah, yeah.
was. That was cast on turn two.
It's a Royal Scions. That's a good question. We've had a couple people, Lemming Messiah, we've had a couple people experimenting with the Twiddle Storm, the kind of Lotus Field Storm lists. And then we had a couple dedicated Storm pilots, but recently they've been on different decks. So I know one of them that I always saw in Storm is now playing the Grizzlebrand combo deck, Neobrand.
Neobrand, yeah,
Yeah.
that one's pretty sweet. It can win on turn one. When
Yeah.
a friend of mine I'm staying with the last couple days, he's playing Ad Nauseum
Oh,
sometimes in
really?
Modern, and
Okay.
or he hasn't played too much Modern lately, but he was telling me last time he came here, I think, for a Modern tournament, he was playing Ad Nauseum, which is generally a turn four combo deck. You get your Lotus off the suspend, and then you go to town. But people are playing Neobrand now and winning the game on turn one or turn
Yep.
two fairly regularly.
Yep.
And you're sitting there with your ad nauseums in hand, like, oh,
Yeah, if you
okay.
don't want to interact, you better have like a damn good reason to not be interacting. And right
Yeah.
now it feels like that's Neobrand or, Amulet Titan, a
Yep.
deck that can explode on turn 3 and go over the top of these Oko decks, or turn 2 in some cases.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Amulet Titan's been at the top of the totem pole for a while now. Up there just as high as the Urza decks, I would say, if not maybe just a notch lower because maybe Urza's still just that good, but Primeval Titan's a hell of a card.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, with Amulet, you get a lot of really good matchups as well. Anybody that's kind of dirtling, anybody that's trying to like play mid range, you're just gonna play a Primeval Titan and never ever lose the game.
Right.
Um, your most difficult matchups are probably like control and decks with a lot of permission in general, because if they can keep you off your prime time, your deck doesn't
Right.
do a whole lot.
No. Yeah.
But the recent innovation of Field of the Dead has really put even your non-Titan draws or your draws where your opponent is able to interact with your Titan on the stack, you're still able to just crush them with a bunch of zombies and an Azusa where you just like keep replaying your bounce land and
Right.
you just make 3 zombies a turn or whatever.
Right. I think it's important to note. I think your non-Titan draws are still pretty bad in general with Field
Oh
of the
yeah,
Dead,
yeah, that's
but
true.
your, as you said, your draws where they interact with your Titan, um, Field of the Dead plus continually casting Titans even if they get removed is a great late game plan. So
Yeah, it's that's the way that deck works. It's just it's never just one.
So we've now seen 2 out of 3 modes used for Boros Charm. We just got indestructible on all
Oh,
of our
the
permanents here.
indestructible.
So that will pump the Swift Spears and will protect them from the Coatl.
We've actually seen no 4 damage mode on Boros Charm
Yeah.
this match. That is really strange.
It it's hard not to view it as a little bit like Zach's still not getting anywhere, even
No.
through stuff like this. You feel like these kind of small victories for Zach are just not going to be able to compete with Oko plus the amount of food and the life total that David's at. Um, it feels like David's already turned the corner in this matchup.
Absolutely has, yeah. It's probably time to start making elks. Yeah. And then you've got a blocker. Zach's only got 2-ish cards in hand, I think. And David can gain 9 life over the course of the next couple turns if he wants.
Right.
So basically, draw 3 cards.
The way that I could maybe see Zach coming back is a big attack here with like 2 burn spells and a Skullcrack or something after. Ooh, that's not maybe not going to be the thing that.
No. No, it's not going to do it. Yeah, it's a foregone conclusion at this point, unless David decides not to take any more game actions, which I don't think is going to be the case. But yeah, it's Gilded Goose and Oko. Making food is pretty good against a deck that all their cards are basically anti-food.
Right. Yeah, we never used to have to define burn that way. It felt better when we didn't have to define it as anti-food.
each card, Skewer the Critics is just -1 food. Lightning Bolt -1 food. And when you can make as much food as you want.
So, we have 1 prowess trigger here.
Yeah.
We're getting rid of an elk. We could still pop a Horizon Land here. And then if we hit another burn spell, so I think if you're Zach, regardless of what you drew, I was thinking as long as you drew a 1-mana instant, or even if you didn't draw a 1-mana instant, I think I would attack here. Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen Zach move to attack with both Swift Spears before blocks Bolt the Elk. And although Zach doesn't know it, I would have maybe killed or at least tried to attack the Oko here.
Yeah, I think you have to get the Oko off the board at this point. Very
Yeah.
different than last game. And no blocks.
And it'll feel really good for Zach for a moment until David slams this other copy of Oko.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why there was no attempt to keep it alive there.
Right.
Simic Urza just feels like a Simic deck that just happens to play Urza.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of incidental artifacts in the deck. Mox Opal just being one of the best cards in Modern. And all the food generators making food, which happen to be artifacts. And Urza just being one of the most powerful cards in Modern as well. Yeah, I sort of agree, but I do think it's very intentional to be playing 4 copies of Oko and 4 copies of Urza and trying to build a deck around that. And yeah, David takes it down pretty easily here. But Zach did take a game from a deck that it seems like one of the nightmare matchups for Burn, I would assume.
Yep.